This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. The holidays are over, the decorations are down, and suddenly everything feels a little empty. It's normal to feel the winter blues after the holiday excitement. January, February, and March are by far my least favorite months of the year. It's cold and dark, and I have to get some extra vitamin D on board. I also need to keep my regular scheduled appointments with my therapist. So if you're feeling that post-holiday funk, I definitely suggest you checking out BetterHelp because maybe it's time to talk. You might also be one of those people like me who makes New Year's resolutions and you get super motivated. So maybe you need someone behind you to hold you accountable and come up with a plan to meet your goals. BetterHelp is super convenient, totally online. You have a therapist right at your fingertips whenever you need them. So head over to betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 for 10% off your first month.
Llévate más de lo que esperas todos los días con el nuevo McValue en McDonald's. Ahora puedes comprar uno y sumarle otro por $1. Así que cuando tu equipo favorito enfrente a sus rivales, enfrenta tus antojos con $5 Meal Deals. Y si estás corriendo para alcanzar el desayuno, corre al app para llevarte ofertas antes del cutoff. Tú decides, y con McValue, tu decisión siempre rinde más. Precios y participación pueden variar. BOGO $1 válido para un producto de igual o menor valor. Debe estar registrado en Rewards para ofertas en el app.
All right, Russ. The story I'm going to tell you today is absolutely borderline unbelievable. Like when you hear it, you're not going to believe the things I say because this story is that crazy. It just proves that when you have the will to survive and the will to live, you can make it through anything. This is the amazing survival of Alison Botha. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wife of Crime, a true crime podcast where I tell my husband all my favorite true crime stories and he reacts to them.
Yep. Not your average boring podcast.
It really is weird. It occurred to me the other day when we were talking to a couple people we know that people don't realize that you literally have no idea the story that I'm going to tell you.
No, because I don't really pay attention to true crime that much. Like, if I see something in the news, I'll look at it for a second, but I keep it moving. It's like channel surfing on my way to ESPN.
Exactly.
So it's true crime just passing by.
Yeah, I found it weird because people thought we planned this whole thing, but we really don't. I plan the whole episode and then Russ just shows up and I tell him this story and all of his reactions are totally authentic. And we really never edit the podcast either. So what you hear is what you get. What you see is what you get. I don't know.
No, well, they're not seeing anything, but it's true though, because one time Jess was like, "Don't say that," and I was like, "Well, then write me a script." And she's like, "We don't do that."
Yeah, so we don't edit anymore. So if you get offended, sorry. I get offended by him all the time. So welcome to my world.
I mean, I just say how things are, really.
That's true. Well,
I'm an observationist.
You are. You're very observational.
And if I see something stupid, I'm like, "That's stupid," they're like, "Don't do that."
Well, the last couple of weeks, we haven't really done a lot of stuff in the beginning, so I'm going to do a little bit of stuff before this story. I'm going to do some shout-outs because we haven't really done any in a while, and some people are really sharing us all the time and showing us a lot of love, so I got to shout them out.
Thanks. That's helping us grow a lot.
It really is. We've grown a lot in the last month, so thank you so much, guys. So I'm going to shout out some people from Instagram, Shrinking Shaw, Selly, Mark, Josh and Hannah from Canada. You know who you are.
Hey.
And I'm going to shout out my cousin Emily. She's not on social media, but according to my family, she talks about our podcast all the time and tells everybody she knows about it. So that's cool. Thanks, Em.
That's dope.
And Shelly Mack. And then there's
Shelly's been around a long time. She's an OG.
Oh, Shelly's an OG. She is. Word up, Shelly. Thank you so much. And then there's a little Yorkie named Lico. Him and his mom live in New York, and they follow us on Instagram.
Oh, that's cool.
So they shared us the other day. Thank you so much, Lico and his mom. And shout out to all my nurse listeners. I have a bunch of nurse listeners, and I have nurse listeners from all over the country, which is so exciting. They reach out to me on Instagram. And there's a bunch of nurses that listen together, apparently, in Vermont. They messaged me the other day and sent me a picture of them.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
It's really cool. So shout out, nurses. I love you guys. You're my heart.
I got
I'm
a nurse joke.
too.
You want to hear it?
No, don't make fun of nurses on this podcast.
So, how can you tell if someone is a nurse?
How?
They'll tell you.
Shut up.
It's true.
We're proud. We're proud.
My name is Jess and I'm a nurse.
Whatever, we're proud. Shout out to all my nurses. You guys in Vermont. I have a lady who messaged me. She's a peds oncology nurse. That's a tough job. Thank you so much. So thanks for all your support, guys. We have a really exciting announcement. We've already posted it on Instagram, but I want to tell you, for people who don't have social media, we got invited by HLN Network to be VIPs at the Forensic Files world premiere in New York City on Thursday.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'm so excited.
I already got my flask ready. It'll be in my inside pocket.
Russ has a flask ready. He has a special shirt ready
What
that
up,
he's going to wear.
what is it called?
HLN.
Oh.
HLN Network.
HLN.
Yeah, so they're redoing Forensic Files. Everybody who's into true crime knows that the new Forensic Files is premiering on February 23rd. So definitely look out for that. But we will be at the premiere, and there's a lot of podcasts that are going to be there, and a few of them are ones that I've listened to for years, like Generation Y. I'm so excited. So
maybe I'll share my drinks with them if they're cool.
I'll
be
sure
like
they're going to be
Guillermo
cool.
at the Oscars, like when Jimmy Kimmel, when he has like the drinks and he gives it to the
Don't get
celebrities.
us in trouble,
on the
Russ.
red
Don't
carpet.
talk about this and then get us in trouble and get us kicked out of the premiere. Come on.
I'm just
Keep it a secret.
I'm just bringing fun.
I know, but don't talk about it. I don't want to get in trouble.
Yo, if you need a drink at the thing, hit your boy up. Don't hit me up. So
All right.
I have a thing. So I found out recently I don't have an inner monologue.
Yeah, we found this out recently. You guys should Google it. Some people don't have an inner monologue, apparently.
I didn't know that was a thing.
And we discovered this last week or so that Russ doesn't have an inner monologue.
That doesn't mean I'm dying. It's not a disease.
No, it means that you don't talk to yourself.
Yeah, in my mind, I don't really have like words. Like,
Yeah,
it's hard to explain.
It's hard to explain. If you guys go and research it, it's pretty fascinating. They're doing a ton of studies on it. Apparently, a lot of people who don't have inner monologues don't realize that that's weird until they're like talking to someone and someone says, oh, I hear a voice in my head. Or, when you hear your own voice in your head and they find it weird, and then you discover that they didn't. Anyway, it's a weird thing, but look it up. It's pretty crazy.
I guess that explains all the random shit that comes out of my mouth. Because
you don't think about it first?
I mean, I can't imagine all day having words in your head. That would drive me crazy, though.
I know, but it's just really strange.
It'd be like hanging out with you all day, never stop talking.
Well, we had a lot of interesting conversations about it this week, so you guys look it up. It's so weird. Okay, is that all of our stuff?
Yeah.
All right. So you ready for this story?
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
This story, Russell, was a suggestion. I had never heard of this before, and I'm like deep in true crime, okay? I am an OG true crimer. I had never heard of this story, and it is I'm not even kidding you when I say the craziest true crime survival story that I've ever heard.
I feel like I've heard this before.
No. This surpasses Mary Vincent's story, in my opinion. And Mary Vincent's story was, in my opinion, the craziest true crime story.
And Mary Vincent still doesn't have arms.
Yes, this is absolutely nuts. So this was suggested by a girl named Leah Christina on Instagram. Thank you for suggesting this, because this story is so inspiring and it's just going to give you so much perspective. This is the case of Alison Botha. So, so many times in our life we get like so bogged down with all the bull crap and the everyday stresses. You could hear our dog in the background. You get so bogged down with all the bull crap and all the everyday stresses, but there are like so many stories like this one of people who survived these horrific things. And it's just a miracle that they made it. And it really puts in perspective how small and insignificant these things that get us down are.
That's right. Like, not me, not today, sucker. You ain't killing me.
Yeah, it's nuts. So I really find stories of survival really fascinating because people have to reach deep down inside of themselves and like force themselves to just make a decision to stay alive. And this is what this woman that I'm going to tell you about did.
It's like the Tina Turner song.
Which one?
I Will Survive.
Oh, I don't. That wasn't Tina Turner.
No? Who was
No.
it? Diana Ross?
I forgot now.
I'll look it up. Russ,
So-
the researcher on the case. Everyone right now is like, oh my God, how don't you know who sings that?
I know they're all yelling at us. They definitely are. Well, like I said, this story to me surpasses the Mary Vincent story. And
Gloria Gaynor.
Gloria Gaynor. That's
Shit.
it. Yeah, that's it. You. So
I never heard of her.
really?
No.
Oh God. This story just shows you that when people have a real will to survive, like you can get through literally anything. Are you ready?
Yep.
So Alison Botha, she was a 27-year-old woman, and she was working as an insurance broker. Now, we're leaving Merca right now. We're not going to be in Merca anymore. We've never done a story outside of the country besides Canada, but this one happened in South Africa, in a place called Port Elizabeth, South Africa. And Alison, like I said, was a 27-year-old girl. She was an insurance broker. She had a great job. She lived alone in an apartment. She just loved her life. And in December of 1994, it was a Sunday afternoon, she was spending a bunch of time with her friends. They had gone to the beach all day because I guess in December in South Africa, the weather's pretty nice. So
Damn, why am I here?
So
For anyone that knows me, I gotta get out this cold weather.
Yeah, he hates the cold. Well, they spent the day at the beach all day in December of 1994. And then after the beach, they decided to go back to Alison's apartment. It was a bunch of friends all hanging out at her apartment. They had a bunch of like board games that they were playing, and they ate pizza. And then around 12 midnight, everybody started leaving. So the last friend that was there, her name is Kim. Alison agreed to take her home, to drive her home, because she didn't want her, walking outside that late. So around 12:30, Alison took her friend Kim home and then came right back to the apartment. And Alison was like ready to get in bed. It'd been a long day. But of course, someone had taken her parking spot right in front of her building. So she had to circle the block and try to find another parking spot. She ended up finding one about a block away from the entrance to her complex. So she parked the car, and there was some laundry in the back seat. So she turned around to reach in the back and grab her laundry. And then all of a sudden...
No, there's a person.
There was no one there, no.
Oh.
All of a sudden, she heard the door of her driver's side open. So she turned and looked, and there was a blonde-haired man with a huge knife standing there. And he pressed the knife against her neck, and he said, "Move over to the passenger seat, or I'm going to stab you in the throat." She says that he spoke low and very matter of fact. And so it made her believe him. Like she believed he's going to kill me.
My mind, it sounded like he was like gritting his teeth.
Yeah, like he was speaking low, very matter of fact. So she just had this feeling that he was serious. So reluctantly, she listened and she moved over to the passenger seat because she was scared. The man hopped in really quickly and started driving. And for a second, she considered jumping out of the moving car, but he was speeding and driving really erratically, and she said she just froze, and she didn't know what to do. She was just frozen. And when I heard her say that, I thought to myself, like, we always talk about fight or flight. And, I just took this sexual assault forensic examiner class, and I learned all this stuff about trauma. And for years, we always hear fight or flight, but really it's fight, flight, or freeze. Because a lot of people, when they're like put in a traumatic situation, they freeze out of fear.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we need to start saying fight, flight, or freeze, because that's a natural reaction of our bodies sometimes, to freeze up and not know what to do.
I think freeze falls in the flight category.
You mean your mind flat?
You like fight or flight. So either you're gonna run or get scared and freeze. To me, the fight or flight, fight is you're gonna fight back, and then when they say flight, it doesn't always mean run away. It could mean freeze as well. Like you're just like, ugh.
Yeah, I guess so. But I just feel like sometimes it gives us room to say, oh, you should have ran, where sometimes our body's natural reaction to something scary is to freeze up or tense up. And that's what she did. So she started begging him. She was crying her eyes out, begging him, please let me go. Just let me go. Don't do anything to me. Don't hurt me, please. And he said, look, my name is Clinton. I'm not going to hurt you. I just really need your car. This dude owes me money. I got to go pick this money up. I needed somebody's car. So don't worry. I'm not going to hurt you, right? But still, she didn't believe him. She was scared, even though he said that.
Yeah. He had a knife.
Yeah. And
he took her with him already. He could have just said, get out. And
exactly.
dipped with
He
the
could have
car.
just carjacked her if he really just needed the car. So now Clinton drove Alison to this main street in the middle of Port Elizabeth, and the knife was pressed up. They stopped at a stoplight, and he had the knife pressed up against her side. And, like I said, she was so scared, and she was begging him. She was like, let me just get out of the car. And he said, if you get out, I'm going to stab you. So all of a sudden, another guy jumps in the back seat of the car. Okay? So now there's a guy in the front, driver's side, a guy behind her in the back seat.
Shit.
Yeah. And they drive and drive and drive out to this very desolate location out in the middle of nowhere, in a place that Alison was always told, don't go there. There's nothing good happening out there. And it's like really, open space and rural area. Like
the South Bronx. They're like, don't go there.
I guess.
But now it's like halfway gentrified.
Yeah, so. Now the South Bronx is busy. This was a place where there wasn't any people around. It was like really empty.
Like Hunts Point.
I guess. People don't
That's
know.
in the Bronx.
Yeah, people don't know what that is.
There's hookers back there,
I guess it would be considered like a place like Hunts Point. So Clinton pulled down this dirt road. He turned off the car, and Alison is just sitting there crying and shaking. She doesn't know what's going to happen next, but she said that she just knew, I'm probably going to die. Like, this is it.
Well, nothing good's going to happen.
Of course. So he ordered the other man to get out of the car. He said, get out of the car, go walk over there for a minute. So the other guy in the back seat got out of the car, and then Clinton grabbed Alison by the back of her head, by her hair, and he had the knife still at the side of her throat. And he forced her head down into his lap and forced her to give him oral sex. And he said, if you try anything, if you try to bite it, if you try to do anything, I'm going to slit your throat.
No, shit.
It gets really bad. So the second man comes back. They drag her out of the car and they beat her up. And then they take turns raping and beating her, both men. When the men are finally finished, she was, incredibly disoriented. She's bloody, bruised. She's naked, laying in the dirt. And she hears the second man. His name is Tiens. They have like different pronouncing kind of names over there. His name is Tiens. And he says, Franz, what are we going to do with her? But she remembered, even though she's disoriented, she remembered, I thought his name was Clinton.
Well, obviously he's going to lie.
Yeah, but this guy said his real name, and his real name is Franz, okay? So she stored that in the back of her head. So the guy says, Franz, what are we going to do with her? And then all of a sudden, Franz jumps on top of her and began strangling her, and she blacked out. The next part is like really crazy. She woke up. She says she woke up and all she saw was Fran's arm going back and forth in front of her face, okay? And she heard this wet noise.
Oh no, he was trying to cut her head off.
She couldn't figure out what it was. And then she realized that he was trying to slit her throat and then continuing to go on and try to cut her head off, okay? They ended up stabbing her in the abdomen while she was completely unconscious. They had stabbed her in the abdomen 38 times.
That's so crazy.
And
Why do
they
people do
were
that?
sawing off her head. And they did it 17 times, sawing back and forth 17 times. They cut her trachea open. Okay. So now she heard, like, she's super out of it, obviously. She doesn't even know what's happening. She can't feel the pain because our brains are just the most amazing things in the world. And when you're in that much shock and your adrenaline is pumping that much, you don't feel pain. So she didn't feel it. She just heard him sawing her head off. Okay. But then she heard one
So
man.
her head is almost off.
Her head is almost off. She heard one man say to the other, "Is she dead?" And the other man said, "No one's going to live through that. Of course she's dead." So they jumped in the car and they left.
What's she going to pick up her head and leave? This is
Listen-
nuts. Her head's off.
This is nuts. Okay, this is nuts. So she said that she's laying there in the dirt. They just left. She hears this gurgling sound, this gurgling noise. And then she doesn't know what it is. But then she realizes that the gurgling noise is her because her trachea is severed.
Oh,
So she's breathing through her neck, essentially, the hole in her neck.
yeah.
So in a way, it's almost like good that her trachea got severed because she's able to get air. Like when people have, when
They put a tube in your
the
throat or
tube in your
something?
throat. Yeah, she's able to get air.
We get it.
I know, it's just not. So she's, breathing through her neck. So as she lays there in the dirt, she started to think about her mom. And she started to think about how much she loves her mom. And that she wants her mom to know that she loved her and that she tried. So she writes in the sand next to her, Franz. Then she writes Tans underneath. And then she writes, "I love you, Mom." Because she remembered their names and she wanted to make sure if she died,
my God.
they would know who did this to her. Okay? So then she says she remembers distinctly, she kind of had an out-of-body experience and she saw herself laying on the ground and she knew it was her, and she said she just felt this kind of need to make a choice. Okay, am I going to go? I'm done? I'm going to die? Or am I going to fight and get through this? And she decided to fight. So she started to crawl. As she's crawling, she feels this warm thing on her thigh. She doesn't know what it is, but it's like warm and wet. She reaches down and realizes that her intestines are hanging out of her body.
Oh my God. She's like cut it apart.
She is disemboweled. Her intestines are hanging out of her body. So she has her blue denim shirt was on the ground next to her. She grabs it and she presses, puts her intestines in the shirt and holds it against her stomach. Okay. So she kept trying to crawl, but then she realizes, I'm not going to make it anywhere. I'm going to die if I try to crawl. This is just too hard. I need to stand up. It's time for me to stand up.
Her head's going to fall off.
So just wait. So she holds her intestines in. She gathers up as much strength as she possibly can, and she stands up. And all of a sudden, she just sees black. Okay? She said when she saw this black, she started touching her neck because she wanted to kind of close the wound up because she realized that her neck is open. But when she touched it, her hand went inside of her neck. And then she quickly realized that she wasn't seeing black. She was seeing the sky because her head was
oh my God.
They had severed the muscles that hold her head up. So her head was hanging back on her shoulders. This is real. And she remembers this distinctly. So she's holding in her intestines, and then she grabs the back of her neck and holds her head up on top of her.
Holy shit. She just didn't. She's like, nah, I'm good. I ain't going.
She's like, I'm not going out like this. Not me, not today.
Know what I would have said? I'm going to sleep. It's over.
Yeah. I can't believe, like, this story is absolutely insane.
Not me, not today is it, boy.
So she holds in her intestines, she holds up her own head and walks 300 feet to the road. Okay? Naked and bloody. And it's a miracle she's alive. She should be dead. She gets to the road and collapses because she's
if anyone was here, they could see Jess right now is holding her stomach and the back of her head, and she hasn't let go for like the past minute, and she's still holding it.
Because it's insane, guys. Like, insane. So she's holding this up. She gets to the road. She finally collapses because she's like, she has no strength left, obviously, but she's like, somebody's going to find me, okay? So she's laying in the street, and all of a sudden she sees a set of headlights coming towards her.
They're not going to stop. She
got super afraid. Like, oh my God, what if this is the guys? What if this is them coming back?
Yeah. Well, they think she's dead.
They think she's dead. So this car pulls up. No one gets out of the car. And they must have seen her, and then they drive off. And they leave her there.
How would someone even help you? Like, her head's cut off.
They don't know her head's cut off. They just see a bloody, naked woman laying in the street.
I'll call the cops.
I don't know what that person was thinking, but they didn't stop. A few minutes later, another car comes. Another set of headlights. This car comes and it stops. And a young man, college-age kid, jumps out. And his name is Tian. And he was a veterinary student. He jumps out and he takes his shirt off and he covers her with his shirt and he holds her hand. His friend is in the passenger seat. And this is 1994, but his friend had just got his first cell phone. So thank God he had a cell phone, and he called 911. And Tian laid next to her and held her hand until the cops and the police and ambulance came. So they rushed her to the hospital. Paramedics, doctors, they all thought there's just pretty much no chance that she's going to survive surgery. Like, this is too insane, right? And like I said, she had the 38 stab wounds and 17 slashes to her neck. But miraculously, they missed all of her arteries.
What?
They didn't get an artery. How insane. So the surgeon was able to put her back together. The surgeries took hours. And when it came to her intestines, because she was crawling in the dirt and all of her intestines were covered in dirt, they couldn't put dirty intestines back in your body.
Yeah.
She'd get an infection. So they had to meticulously clean her intestines piece by piece, inch by inch, to make sure that they were completely clean.
How do you do that?
I have no idea.
With a magic eraser?
Shut up, Russ. But they did it. And they ended up being able to put them all back in her belly.
Holy moly.
And put her back together.
How do you get all the dirt? Like, dirt is little.
I don't know. They got it off, though. She ended up being in the hospital for 3 weeks, okay? And she wanted to see police right away. So she was intubated. She had a breathing tube in, okay?
Thanks for us
people
that don't know.
Yeah, she was awake, but she had the tube down her throat. So she could write on a pad of paper, and she wanted to see the police right away. So the police came, and they showed her multiple pictures of different men. And she pointed these 2 guys out right away. She knew who they were. But unfortunately, for some reason, the police said that they needed her to verbally say it. Okay.
Oh, she can't talk.
And she can't talk. She has a tube in her throat. So the doctor said, I'm nervous to take this tube out too early. I don't know if she can breathe on her own. I'm scared to take it out. And he had a talk with her. The doctor said to her, do you want to try to take this out and talk and breathe on your own?
She's like, I could live through anything, motherfucker. Take this tube out.
She did. She said, take it out. I want to take it out. I want these guys arrested. So they took the tube out. She ended up being able to breathe on her own. And she ID'd these 2 guys. Okay?
Respect.
I know, man. This is crazy. So they arrested the men, and the men were charged tons of charges. They ended up getting life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Were they career criminals? They had to be. That isn't.
I mean, that's not something you do once.
Yeah, it's not your first crime. You're not like stealing baseball cards or nothing like that.
No, yeah, like your first crime. Well, apparently these guys, there's a lot of mixed things. I need to research more into this. Since this story isn't like so well known for some reason, there's not a lot about the perpetrators on there. There was rumors that they were into some like satanic ritualistic stuff, but this was
the
not the
satanic
90s.
panic.
Exactly. This was the 90s. So it could have been people like really playing up the culty thing, satanic panic stuff. But yeah, I don't think this was their first time doing anything like that. That's not something you just do on your first time of,
Nah, they went ham.
No, it's crazy. So, Alison, she ended up getting out of the hospital. She went on with her life. One of her bigger fears was that she would never be able to have children. She ended up being able to have children. She became a public speaker and traveled all over the world speaking about this story.
They cut her head off.
They cut her freaking head off.
How could you live without your head?
Well, they didn't cut it obviously, they didn't cut it completely off. It was still connected. They didn't sever the arteries, but it was falling off. It's insane. So she ended up, she wrote a book called I Have Life, and it, became a really popular book. And then a couple years later, they filmed a documentary about her called Alison. And she's in the documentary. It's not like one of those where they film a documentary about you, but you're not in it. They just talk about your story. She's in the documentary. And there's like, it's her interviews with her and her telling her story. And then there's like reenactments of it. And she said that she didn't want to be there when they filmed the reenactments. But once she saw it, that it was a pretty accurate portrayal.
What's her last name again?
Botha. Botha.
Okay.
She still has a scar on her neck. It goes like from ear
of
all the way
course.
down to the other side, to her other ear. So she still has the scar, but it's faded over time. And she
looks like a regular human.
She looks great. Like they really put her back together. She's completely back to normal after this.
In my mind, I thought she would be like
scarred up and
look
stuff.
like Frankenstein, like they cut her up and the doctor like just put her back together somehow.
No, she looks great.
Wow.
She's a huge advocate for women's rights in South Africa. She was the first woman to speak publicly about rape in South Africa and be a big advocate for abuse against women. So she has done so much good with this horrific story. And it's just amazing. But then in 2004, there was a little bit of a twist that happened. In 2004, in South Africa, a bunch of the laws changed, and anybody convicted to life without the possibility of parole before 2004 would have been eligible for parole. So she ended up protesting their parole eligibility and got a bunch of signatures. I think she got like 12,000 signatures against from other South Africans not allow them to get out of prison.
Yeah.
She spoke in front of like their
We should cut their
government
head off.
and spoke in front of the government. Cut their head off.
No, we should.
You can't. They're in jail still.
Someone could cut their head off.
Well, she spoke in front of the government and pretty much begged them, like, do not release these men. They are terrible human beings. They cannot be on the street. And
I don't even think they would question that. They'd be like, oh, yeah, of course not.
yeah, the courts denied their parole. But it was scary. Like, she was scared that they were going to come retaliate against her because in their minds, they got away with this crime, like, scot-free. And she wrote their names in the sand. She stayed alive. She identified them a few days after being in the hospital.
She like came back from the dead.
She literally, when you hear her speak, you're like, how did someone survive something like this?
Imagine how shocked those fuckers were when they were like, yeah, this woman identified you. They're like, what woman?
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
They're probably like, no way. There's no one. Like,
yeah, he said, she remembers specifically hearing him say, oh no one can survive this because they thought they did such bad damage. It's insane. So that is the story of Alison Botha. And it's literally one of the craziest survival stories. I think her and Mary Vincent are the top two of survival stories that I've ever heard. If anybody out there's heard anything crazier than that, let me know. Because this is like I couldn't believe it.
Mary Vincent was bugged out because he cut her arms off. Did he cut both her arms off?
Both her arms off.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And she put the mud pack on her arms so that she wouldn't bleed out. She thought about that.
And then rolled up the hill.
And then, she climbed up the hill with no arms.
In my mind, she rolled because you can't pull yourself up with no arms.
But she used her legs and her like the stubs of her arms. How crazy. But this woman got her head almost chopped off, and her intestines were hanging outside of her body.
I mean, we don't need to have a competition of who had the shittiest day. It was both a pretty shitty day.
No, of course not. It's not a competition, but I'm just saying I didn't think anything could be crazier than Mary Vincent's story. But anyway, you can watch the documentary. It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Alison. So if you guys can handle it, you can watch it. It does have reenactments, and apparently I haven't watched it yet. I want to watch it, but I haven't watched it yet. But apparently it's pretty gruesome, the reenactments.
I'm probably not going to watch it. I get all my true crime from Jess.
True. Yeah, you're not. You get
and every now and then I'll listen. What did I used to listen to? I used to listen to a couple others.
Mm-hmm.
But once a week is good enough for me of terrible things. And that's it.
Well, me and my fellow true crime junkies, we can handle a lot more than just once a week.
Yeah, you guys have no souls. That's
yes,
what
we
it
do.
is. You just listen to all that bad
we're
news.
just fascinated. Women are fascinated by true. Not just women. I mean, there's a lot of men that listen to us, actually. But I'm not alone. It tends to be more of a women-driven genre, and I think it's because women want to feel prepared. We want to feel like we want to envision ourselves in a situation like this. You want to be able to kill your husbands
just like all these other crazy ones and get away with it.
No, not at all. We want to feel like, okay, if we were in this situation, what could we do to survive? Because women walk around every day, all day, feeling inferior.
Not all women.
A lot of women.
Some are probably confident.
Not that we're not confident. It's more like we know that a man can overpower us sometimes. So, like, it's a scary way to live. So we have to be prepared.
Not in Texas. You know why?
Why?
Because people have guns in Texas. Then women will shoot the shit out of you.
Oh, yeah. I bet we have some Texas women that are like, nah, I got my pistol. I'm ready to go.
Yep. Nope. They're like, I'll shoot the shit out of you, Poppy.
Not here in New York, though. In New York, we got to carry pepper spray or
hide your gun.
Or hide your gun. Or have like a keychain with a little stabby knife thing on it.
That'll just annoy someone. You need to do something that'll
really do some damage.
I'm a big pepper spray person. You blind the person.
That's true. You are a big
get
pepper
away.
spray
Because
person.
if someone can't see you and their eyes are burning and they can't breathe, there's nothing they could do to you anymore.
That's true. Well, I don't know. This story is so crazy and inspiring, and it just made me realize that all this stupid crap that we get all annoyed and upset about, it's just really not that bad when you hear something like this. It's really not that bad.
Because I still got my head.
You still got your head. It's true. This is crazy, right?
Yeah.
She's so awesome. Like, what a badass. The strength that it took. Anyway.
Yeah, I would have been dead.
We're going to go to Forensic Files on Thursday. I think we're going to try to do a recap. We're not going to do any spoilers, but maybe after the Forensic Files premiere, if we're feeling not too drunk, we'll come home. Or maybe we'll do it drunk. Maybe it'll be fun.
Yeah, maybe.
To drunk record.
And then check us out on Instagram at Wife of Crime Pod. I'll probably go live during the VIP event a time or two. And Jess might be like, you've been on this video too long. But Drunk Russ Live is a good time.
It is a good time sometimes when he's not making fun of me. But we will definitely take lots of pictures, lots of selfies. We will go on our Insta stories, so keep an eye out for all that. And we might do a recap. Yes, you will do selfies.
I'll do like one or two, because what happens is when you take a picture with a woman, the first picture was never okay. And then they have to reposition, and now you have to take like 16 more pictures.
Whatever.
I'm one shot Russ.
All right. Well, have a good week, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let it inspire you. You can literally get through anything because this woman got through something that's absolutely unbelievable. So you can get through anything this week. Have a wonderful week. I'll talk to you guys later.
Oh, wait, and share the podcast. Tell your mom. She'll like it. And maybe your husband, because it was just Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Some husbands might like this because you're on it. And they might feel like, I mean, it depends on the type of husband they are. Like if they're somebody who who wants to hear something like that, like true crime. Not everybody wants to hear true crime.
It's better than This Is Us. That's a boring show.
Oh,
Listen
stop
to this.
it. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.